Smoke rose from the first chimney before sunrise, thin and pale against the cold sky. Marta stood outside the house with a bucket in her hand, watching the wheat move under the weak morning wind. Behind her, Helena opened the door. "Marta, the water will freeze if you keep staring at the field." "I know. You have been standing there too long." Marta turned slowly. "It is quiet today." Helena looked toward the forest. Quiet does not mean safe. Inside, Tomas sat near the table, holding a spoon like a soldier's rifle. "Look," he said, pointing it toward the door. "If they come, I will stand here." Helena took the spoon from his hand at once. "You will stand nowhere near soldiers." "They will not come," Tomas said. Marta set the bucket down. "People said that last month too." The small kitchen smelled of bread and smoke. On the shelf above the oil lamp sat one photograph inside a cracked wooden frame. Their father stared from the picture in old work clothes, unsmiling as if he had known the picture would remain after him. Tomas looked up at it. "Will he come before winter?" Helena did not answer. Marta crossed the room and touched the folded letters beside the frame. The last letter said he was alive. "That letter came 3 months ago," Helena said quietly. "He wrote that he was strong." Helena gave a tired smile. "Men write strength even when they have none." Tomas leaned closer to Marta. "Read it again tonight. You already know every line. I want to hear his name." Marta slipped the top letter back under the cloth. "You will hear it tonight." Outside, chickens scratched near the fence. The village road remained empty except for an old cart moving slowly toward the church. Helena handed Marta a cloth bag. "Take the eggs before noon." "You think old Pavel still has flour?" "He must have something left." "If soldiers stopped his road too?" Helena lowered her voice. "Then ask less and return quickly." Marta wheeled the old bicycle outside. Tomas followed her. "Can I come?" "No. I can help carry." "You can help Mother cut wood." "I hate cutting wood." Helena stood at the doorway. "And war asks what you hate now?" Tomas looked down. Marta touched his hair. "I will return before dark." The road curved between wheat and pine. The bicycle wheels clicked over broken stone. 2 houses stood empty near the stream, doors hanging open after families left weeks earlier. At the next crossing, old Pavel waited beside his cart. "You came alone?" he asked. "Yes." "Good." Fewer eyes. He looked behind her before lifting a sack. "Half flour. Less than promised. Half is still worth carrying." He traded the sack for eggs and leaned closer. "They took 3 men from the southern road yesterday." Marta tightened her hand on the bicycle handle. "Which men?" "Brothers from the mill." "For work." "No one says work now." She said nothing. Pavel glanced toward the trees. "You heard engines?" "Only rumors." "I heard them before dawn." "Trucks." He nodded once. "From the north." The sound of distant crows filled the silence. Marta pushed the bicycle home faster than before. By afternoon, clouds gathered low above the village. Helena repaired Tomas's coat near the window. "You returned early," she said. Pavel heard trucks. Helena's needle stopped. "Did he see them?" "No." Tomas looked up. "Maybe they are ours." Helena answered sharply. "No one belongs to us in war." The room grew darker. Marta lit the oil lamp before sunset. Helena placed potatoes into boiling water and spoke without looking up. "If soldiers come, do not argue." "I know." "Do not answer quickly." "I know." "Do not look at them too long." Marta sighed. "You say this every night." "Because every night they are still possible." Tomas moved closer to the shelf. "Why would they come here? We have nothing." Marta looked at the photograph again. "They came for father, and he had nothing too." Silence followed. When dinner ended, Tomas waited beside the lamp. "The letter." Marta unfolded the paper carefully. The corners had softened from many readings. Helena stared into the fire while Marta read. "My dear Helena, Marta, and Tomas. They move us often, but I remain standing." Tomas smiled faintly. "Read the part where he says my name." Marta continued. Tomas must listen to his mother and stop climbing roofs. A weak laugh reached Helena's lips. He knew you too well, she whispered. Then it came. Low at first. A distant mechanical sound beyond the forest. Marta stopped reading. Tomas frowned. What is that? Helena stood immediately. No one spoke for several seconds. The sound returned, deeper now, rolling through the trees like iron against earth. Truck engines. More than one. Helena blew out the lamp. Curtains, she said. Marta moved quickly. Outside, dogs barked across the village. Tomas pressed against the wall. Are they passing? No answer came. The engines grew louder. A door slammed somewhere nearby. A woman shouted in another house. Helena gripped Marta's arm hard enough to hurt. Listen to me now. Marta kept her eyes on the dark window. If they knock, Tomas says nothing. The engine stopped. Very close. Boots touched the road outside. Heavy. Slow. Certain. Tomas whispered, Mother? Helena reached for the letters and pushed them into Marta's hands. Hide them. A shadow crossed the window. Then another. Marta slid the letters under her dress just as a voice outside gave a sharp order in a foreign language. No one breathed. A rifle but struck the neighbor's door first. Then came shouting. Then another set of boots turned toward their house. And stopped at their steps. The knock never came softly. A rifle but struck the door hard enough to shake dust from the ceiling. Helena whispered, Do not move until they speak. A voice outside shouted in German. Another strike followed. Marta pulled Tomas behind her. Helena opened the door before the third blow. Cold air rushed in with two soldiers carrying rifles. Their coats were wet with morning mist, boots dark with mud. One soldier stepped inside without asking. The second pointed toward the square. Outside. Now. Helena answered carefully, The boy is frightened. The soldier repeated himself louder. Marta took Tomas's hand. He heard you. The first soldier searched the room, opening drawers, lifting cloth, checking under the table. He picked up the photograph from the shelf. Tomas moved forward. That is our father. Helena tightened her grip on his shoulder. The soldiers studied the picture, then dropped it back carelessly. Outside, doors opened one after another along the road. Villagers stepped into the gray dawn, faces pale, coats half-buttoned, children held close. 3 trucks stood near the church. More soldiers spread through the road like dark shadows. An officer stood beside the first truck with a folded paper in his hand. He wore gloves, his coat clean despite the mud, his expression unreadable. He began reading names in a clear voice. Pavel Anton. Old Pavel stepped forward slowly. Here. Yarek Milks. A man from the mill answered. The officer looked up between names only briefly, measuring faces before returning to the list. Another officer moved nearby, shouting at soldiers searching houses. His voice carried anger even when no one resisted. Marta leaned toward Helena. Which one commands? Helena watched the man with the paper. The quiet one. A soldier emerged from a nearby house carrying a radio. Another brought flour sacks. The angry officer inspected each item. No hidden storage, he barked. A villager answered, That is all. The officer struck him across the face. Then answer faster. Tomas flinched. The man with the paper finally reached their house number. Helena Novak. Helena stepped forward. Marta Novak. Marta followed. Tomas Novak. Tomas said nothing. Marta answered for him. He is here. The officer raised his eyes. For the first time, Marta saw them clearly, gray, steady, almost detached. He marked something beside the names. Then he said, Any absent family members? Helena hesitated. My husband was taken months ago. For labor? Yes. The officer looked at the photograph still visible through the doorway. Name? Jan Novak. He wrote again. The angry officer approached. Lieutenant Kruger. His jaw tightened when he saw Tomas staring at a truck. What is the boy looking at? Tomas answered before Helena could stop him. How many soldiers are there? Kruger grabbed the boy by the collar instantly. Helena cried out. Tomas stumbled, fear replacing curiosity at once. Questions? Kruger snapped. He asks questions? Marta stepped forward before thinking. He is only a child. The words cut across the square louder than intended. Several villagers lowered their eyes immediately. Kruger turned toward her. And children learn silence early. He pulled Tomas harder. Marta moved again. Let him go. Helena whispered sharply, Marta? The officer with the paper stepped forward then. Lieutenant. Kruger looked irritated but stopped. Captain Eric Weiss spoke without raising his voice. Release the boy. Kruger frowned. He spoke during inspection. He is a child. He must learn. Weiss held his gaze. Release him. Kruger let Tomas go with visible reluctance. The boy stumbled back into Marta's arms. Weiss looked directly at Marta. Next time, silence. His voice remained calm, almost colder because it carried no anger. Marta hated that tone instantly. It sounded like someone deciding where fear should stop and begin. She said nothing. Weiss returned to the paper. Food stores will be counted. Curfew begins at sunset. No travel without permission. Radios surrendered now. A woman near the church whispered, We had only one radio. Kruger heard her. You had one too many. Soldiers entered the church tower and removed the bell rope. Another entered the school building carrying crates. By mid-morning, village tables stood outside while soldiers checked bread, flour, potatoes, and tools. One soldier lifted Helena's flour sack. This amount. For winter, Helena said. He looked toward Weiss. Weiss nodded once. Half remains. The soldier emptied half onto military canvas. Helena watched without protest, but Marta saw her fingers shaking. Near noon, Tomas sat on the doorstep while soldiers crossed the road repeatedly. He whispered, The quiet officer saved me. Marta answered sharply, He did not save anyone. He stopped the other one. He still stands with them. Tomas looked down. Helena folded blankets slowly. Both can be true. By afternoon, children were ordered indoors. Men repaired fences under armed watch. The school no longer belonged to the village. Curtains were removed. Desks were dragged outside. Radios, maps, and wooden boxes entered through the front door. A truck unloaded fuel barrels beside the church. Kruger shouted orders constantly. Weiss spoke rarely. That difference unsettled Marta more than shouting. Near evening, a soldier nailed fresh papers onto the church door. Villagers gathered at a distance. Marta read aloud under her breath. Curfew. No movement after sunset. Forest entry forbidden. Any missing supplies reported immediately. Old Pavel stood beside her. Forbidden forest means they fear someone there. They fear everyone now, Marta said. A bicycle leaned near the church wall. A soldier kicked it aside. Tomas ran toward it before Marta caught him. Leave it. It is ours. Not now. Across the square, Weiss stepped out of the school carrying another list. For 1 second his eyes met Marta's again. No anger. No apology. Only attention. She looked away first. The church bell did not ring that evening. Smoke rose from fewer chimneys because soldiers counted wood too. Inside the house, Helena closed every curtain before lighting the lamp. Tomas sat quietly, unlike any night before. Will they stay long? He asked. No one answered at once. Then Helena said, long enough to change how mornings sound. Outside, boots crossed the road again. Marta unfolded her father's hidden letter after dark but did not read it. Instead she listened to voices from the school. German commands. Truck doors. Metal against stone. A village she had known all her life no longer sounded like itself. Then one clear order cut through the night from outside the school. Captain Weiss. Controlled. Certain. And Marta understood the trucks had not only arrived. They had settled. The village learned silence by the third morning. No one opened a door before soldiers crossed the road first. No one spoke near windows after sunrise. Even chickens seemed quieter when boots passed the fences. Helena handed Marta an empty sack before dawn. They ordered flour again? They order something every day. Tomas looked up from the corner bench. Will they take the lamp too? Only if you ask loudly enough, Marta said. Helena did not smile. Go and return before Kruger notices delay. Outside, frost covered the ground in pale silver. 2 soldiers waited near the school entrance, rifles across their coats. One pointed at the sacks stacked by the church. Inside, Marta lifted one sack and carried it through the school door. The classroom no longer smelled of chalk. It smelled of damp wool, ink, and smoke. Maps covered the walls. Desks had been pushed aside for crates and rifles. Captain Eric Weiss stood near the teacher's table, reading papers under a hanging lamp. Another soldier sorted confiscated items beside him, radios, notebooks, letters. Marta lowered the sack. Where? The soldier pointed toward the wall. Weiss did not look up at first. Another from Helena Novak? Yes. He marked something in a ledger. A second sack followed. Then a third. On her 4th trip, she noticed one folded letter near Weiss's hand. The paper looked worn, edges softened by repeated reading. Her breath stopped. Her father's handwriting. Weiss noticed her staring. This belongs to your family? His voice remained low. Marta stepped closer before thinking. It belongs to someone you already stole. The soldier near the crates shifted, expecting anger. None came. Weiss studied the letter again. No stamp. It never reached where it was meant to. Your father wrote recently? He wrote before men with lists decided who keeps paper. For one moment, silence thickened. Weiss folded the letter once. Carry the last sack. She did not move. Did you hear? The soldier snapped. Marta lifted the sack and left without another word. Outside, villagers formed a line near the church for bread inspection. Each loaf was weighed before being returned or reduced. Old Pavel stood ahead of Helena. They counted my potatoes twice yesterday, he muttered. Helena answered without turning her head. Today they may count breath. At the end of the line, Lieutenant Kruger inspected a farmer's cart. The farmer, Merrick, looked pale beside 2 sacks of grain. Kruger tore one open with a knife. Hidden under straw? It was for winter. For whom? My children. Kruger struck him hard across the mouth. The grain spilled into mud. Marta stopped walking. Merrick fell to one knee. I told everything. Kruger grabbed his coat. You told what was visible. Helena whispered sharply, keep walking. Another blow landed. No one moved to help. Kruger looked at the villagers. This village learns slowly. Merrick tried to stand. Kruger struck him again with the rifle stock. Tomas watched from the doorway of their house, frozen. Marta wanted to move toward Merrick, but Helena caught her wrist. You cannot save every blow. The words felt bitter because both knew they were true. By noon, 2 men from the southern houses were taken inside the school and not seen again until evening. When they emerged, one could barely walk. The other held blood against his ear. Tomas whispered, did they answer wrongly? Helena closed the curtain halfway. In war, answers do not protect. Near sunset, Marta returned to the school for the empty sacks. One guard opened the door. Inside, fewer soldiers remained. Lamps burned low. Weiss stood alone near the teacher's desk. The confiscated letters were gone. Only ledgers remained. He did not look at her when he spoke. Take that one too. A flour sack waited near the wall. She lifted it. Something inside shifted differently from flour. Her eyes rose toward him. He still wrote in silence. The guard outside coughed impatiently. Marta carried the sack home through fading light. Inside the kitchen, Helena untied the top. The hidden letter slid free. For several seconds neither woman spoke. Tomas leaned forward. That is father's. Helena stared at Marta. Who returned it? Marta answered slowly. No one said it was returned. Helena unfolded the paper with careful hands. He opened it? No. How do you know? The fold was unchanged. Tomas smiled for the first time that day. Then maybe he is good. Marta looked toward the dark window. No. Helena lifted her eyes. Not good. Not simple. Outside, shouting broke the quiet again. Kruger's voice. Another inspection. Another accusation. A woman cried near the road. Marta stepped to the curtain. Kruger dragged Merrick back outside, forcing him toward the church wall. Weiss appeared seconds later from the school doorway. He said something low. Kruger answered sharply. Even from a distance, disagreement was clear. Kruger pointed toward Merrick. Weiss looked once at the bleeding farmer, then toward the gathered villagers. Finally he spoke one sentence. Kruger stepped back, furious but obeying. Merrick collapsed to the ground alive. Helena exhaled slowly. What did he say? Marta shook her head. Something that still came too late. Night settled over the village with no church bell, only boots and distant commands. Tomas sat near the lamp while Helena folded the letter again. Will Father know we still have this? Marta watched the road beyond the curtain. If he returns, he will know. And if he does not? No one answered. Across the village, school windows glowed behind military shadows. Captain Weiss had returned one letter. Lieutenant Kruger had broken another man's face. Marta understood then that uniforms could hold different kinds of danger. But none arrived without cost. And silence remained the only language the village trusted after dark. The gunfire began after midnight. One sharp burst tore through the dark, followed by another, then a blast strong enough to shake the window glass. Tomas woke first. Marta! She sat up before the second explosion ended. Outside, men shouted near the northern road. Helena lit no lamp. Stay down, she whispered. Another shot echoed from the bridge. A truck engine screamed, then stopped abruptly. From the school came shouted orders in German, boots striking the road at once. Marta moved to the curtain. A red glow rose beyond the trees. Something is burning. Helena pulled her back. Do not stand near the window. Voices outside multiplied. Soldiers ran past the house. Tomas clutched the blanket. Is it the forest? No, Marta said quietly. The bridge. For nearly an hour the village stayed awake in darkness while commands and gunfire rolled through the night. Then silence returned suddenly, heavier than before. No church bell. No dogs. Only distant crackling from fire. At dawn, the knock came again, harder than before. Kruger's voice followed. Outside. All houses. Helena opened the door with shaking hands. The square already held most of the village. Soldiers pushed people into rows near the church. Smoke still drifted from the north. One military truck was missing. Another stood damaged, its side blackened. Kruger paced in front of the villagers, furious. His face looked sharper in morning light. Captain Weiss stood near the church steps with 2 soldiers and a paper, but this time he did not read names. Kruger shouted instead. Someone attacked military transport. No one answered. Someone fired near the bridge. Old Pavel lowered his eyes. Kruger walked directly to him. You heard nothing? Pavel answered, only the explosion. Kruger struck him instantly. Pavel fell but stayed silent. Kruger turned again. Names. Still no answer. Helena whispered, do not look up. Tomas gripped Marta's hand too tightly. Kruger pointed toward the first row of houses. Search all of them. Soldiers moved at once. Doors opened violently. Drawers emptied into mud. Bedding thrown outside. A woman cried when plates shattered on stone. Marta heard wood splitting from Marek's house. Kruger stopped in front of Helena. Who left the village after curfew? No one from this house. Who passed near the bridge? We slept. He leaned closer. Everyone slept? Yes. Kruger stared at Tomas. The boy tried not to move. Then shouting rose near the barns. A soldier dragged out a hidden sack of grain from behind loose boards. Kruger smiled without warmth. More lies. It was old grain, Merrick said from behind the line. Kruger pointed at the barn. Burn it. Merrick stumbled forward. No, please, my animals. 2 soldiers forced him back. A torch touched dry wood. Flames caught quickly. Women gasped. The smoke spread fast across the square. Helena covered her mouth. Marta watched Merrick sink to his knees. Kruger raised his voice again. Names or more fire? Still no one spoke. Then Helena cried out softly when sparks blew toward Tomas. The boy turned instinctively and ran toward her. A soldier near the line grabbed him before he reached her. Tomas screamed, "Marta!" Helena lunged forward. "No!" Kruger seized Tomas by the arm and dragged him into the open. Children run when guilty houses fear truth. "He is frightened," Helena shouted. Kruger pulled his pistol. Marta moved before thought returned. She struck the soldier nearest her and reached Tomas. "Leave him." A rifle but hit her shoulder, but she did not let go. Tomas cried out as Kruger aimed lower. The pistol pointed directly at the boy. Helena screamed. Then Weiss stepped between them. "Enough." Kruger snapped. "He ran." "He is a child." "He ran during investigation." Weiss stood still. "You already made your point." Kruger's jaw tightened. "He learns now or later." Weiss did not move aside. No shooting in the square. For 1 second Marta thought Kruger might ignore him. Then the pistol lowered. Tomas collapsed into Helena's arms, shaking uncontrollably. Kruger looked toward Weiss with open anger. "Then punishment must stand elsewhere." Weiss answered coldly, "Take one prisoner until attackers are named." Kruger turned immediately. "This one." His hand seized Marta's coat. Helena grabbed Marta's arm. "No, she did nothing." "She attacked a soldier," Kruger said. "She protected her brother." Kruger pulled harder. Marta fought, but 2 soldiers held her. Tomas cried, "Take me instead." Helena nearly fell trying to hold Marta back. "Please, she stays here, please." Kruger ignored her. Marta looked at Weiss. For the first time, she asked him directly, "You stop one cruelty and choose another?" His face gave nothing. "The camp holds prisoners until questioning ends." "Then question me here." Kruger shoved her forward. "You speak too much already." Helena collapsed to her knees. "Marta!" Tomas tried to run again, but Helena caught him with both arms. Marta reached inside her coat while soldiers dragged her toward the truck. Her fingers found the folded letter hidden beneath cloth. Still there. Still dry. Other women were already inside the truck. 2 from neighboring farms, 1 older widow from the edge of the village. Kruger pushed Marta up the metal step. She nearly fell inside. Behind her, Helena remained in the mud, unable to stand. Tomas shouted her name until his voice broke. Weiss walked past the truck without looking up. Marta gripped the side rail. "Will they burn more?" He stopped but did not turn. "That depends on what your village hides." "And what do you hide?" Kruger slammed the truck door before any answer came. Inside, the widow whispered, "Where are they taking us?" No one knew. The truck engine started. Through the narrow opening, Marta saw smoke rising from Marek's barn, villagers still lined before rifles. Helena bent over Tomas like someone already mourning. The truck rolled forward. Past the church. Past the school. Past the bridge where black metal still smoked beside broken boards. The forest road opened ahead. 1 soldier sat opposite the women, rifle across his knees. Another lit a cigarette near the door. Marta pressed the hidden letter harder against her chest. Behind them, the village disappeared slowly into morning smoke. Ahead, the road entered darker trees. And for the first time since the trucks arrived, she understood home could vanish before a person stopped seeing it. The truck stopped after sunrise. A soldier opened the rear door, and cold air entered with the smell of wet earth and pine. Down. Marta stepped onto mud first. The camp stood behind 2 rows of wire fencing beside old military barracks with broken roofs and patched walls. Watch posts rose above the fence, each with armed guards already awake. The widow beside Marta whispered, "This place was empty before winter." "It is not empty now," another woman answered. Kruger stood near the gate, hands behind his back. "Line them there." Women from another truck joined them, thin faces, torn coats, lowered eyes. A guard counted quickly. Then the gate opened. Inside, boots sank into mud between barracks. 1 long building held women already watching through cracked boards. Another served as kitchen, another as storage. A whistle sounded near the far fence. Kruger looked at the prisoners. Names are spoken once. If ignored, punishment doubles. He began pointing. Inside left Barack. You right side. You. His hands stopped at Marta. Front Barack. A woman near the doorway moved aside when Marta entered. Inside smelled of damp straw, old wood, and sickness. 3 rows of rough beds stood close together. A pale woman with dark hair sat upright near the far wall. She looked at Marta carefully. New. Yes. Village. Yes. The woman nodded toward an empty bed. Take that before someone weaker claims it. Another older woman lay nearby, staring upward. She still thinks beds matter, the older one said. The dark-haired woman answered calmly, beds matter when winter enters through the roof. Marta set her coat down. I am Marta. Anya. The older woman turned slowly. Sophia. Her voice carried no curiosity. Anya leaned closer. Teacher before war. Marta looked at her. You. Anya gave a faint smile. I carried papers where soldiers disliked paper. Sophia added without moving, she means messages. A whistle sounded again outside. A guard shouted, water detail. Anya stood. You came at the right hour. First lesson here, move before they drag you. They joined 6 other women carrying barrels toward the hand pump near the fence. Mud reached their boots. Guards watched from both sides. Marta lifted 1 barrel with Anya. Do they always use prisoners for everything? She asked. For everything except kindness, Sophia said from behind them. At noon, soup arrived in dented metal bowls, thin water with cabbage floating near the surface. Sophia stared at hers. They call this food because names sound kinder than truth. Marta took 1 sip and nearly coughed. Anya tore stale bread carefully into 2 pieces. Eat slowly. Hunger becomes worse if you fight it too early. Kruger entered the barack before evening. Everyone stood immediately. He walked between beds like counting damage. 1 woman near the door failed to rise fast enough. Kruger struck the bed frame with a stick. Stand. She struggled up. His eyes reached Marta. Still speaking? She said nothing. But the village taught 1 lesson at least. When he left, Sophia whispered, he chooses 1 face every week. Why? Marta asked. So the rest remember theirs. Night brought rain through the roof. Women shifted blankets to avoid dripping water. Some coughed through the dark. 1 cried quietly until sleep came. At dawn, more labor began, wood carrying, washing uniforms, hauling water again. By afternoon, Marta's injured shoulder burned sharply. Anya noticed. You were hit. At the square. Do not show weakness near Kruger. I am carrying the barrel, am I not? The second trip proved heavier. Halfway across the yard, her arm failed. The barrel slipped. Water spilled over mud. A guard shouted. Marta bent to lift again, but pain struck so hard her vision blurred. Then darkness. When she woke, the roof above her was different. Lower, cleaner, with shelves along 1 wall. A storage room. Bandage wrapped her shoulder. Someone sat near the door. Captain Weiss. He looked up only when she moved. You woke. She tried to sit. Why am I here? You collapsed. You should have let me fall. Dead prisoners answer no questions. His voice stayed low, almost tired. She looked around. No questions were asked before. Not all are asked aloud. She noticed her coat folded on a crate. The hidden letter lay beside it. For 1 instant she reached toward it sharply. Weiss picked it up first. This again. She stared at his hand. If you read it, burn it after. He studied the folded paper but did not open it. Instead he placed it back beside her. It remained where you hid it. Why? It was not addressed to military command. That never stopped anyone. Outside, boots crossed gravel. Weiss stood before the sound reached the door. You return to barracks in 10 minutes. She looked at the bandage. You ordered this? The medic wrapped it. Because you ordered it. He gave no answer. She asked quietly, why not leave me in the yard? Because carrying dead prisoners wastes labor. The words sounded cold, yet his tone still lacked Kruger's cruelty. He moved toward the door. then stopped. Do not collapse again near Kruger. That sounds almost like concern. That sounds like instruction. When he left, Marta held the letter tightly. Anya entered minutes later carrying folded cloth. So it is true. What is true? They took you inside. For a shoulder? Anya examined the bandage. Kruger does not send women inside for shoulders. It was Weiss. Anya lowered her voice. The quiet ones are dangerous too. I know. Do you? Marta looked toward the door where he had stood. I know enough. That evening's soup tasted no better. Rain returned after dark. Sophia watched water drip through the roof. First week is hardest. How long have you been here? Marta asked. Long enough to stop counting months. Anya sat on the bed opposite. Do not listen when she says no one leaves. Sophia turned her head. Have you seen many leave? No. Then let honesty breathe. Marta placed the folded letter beneath her blanket. Outside, a whistle blew once more. Guards changed positions near the fence. Farther away, engines moved beyond the trees. Camp life had already found its rhythm: orders, mud, hunger, silence. Yet inside that silence now stood one new uncertainty. Captain Weiss had returned the letter again. And that unsettled her more than the fence. Winter entered the camp without warning. By morning, frost covered the fence wire, and breath hung white above every line of prisoners waiting for soup. Sophia rubbed her hands together near the barack wall. The cold arrives faster than mercy. Anya looked toward the guard tower. Mercy never asked for directions. Marta tightened her coat around the hidden letter. The shoulder still hurt when she lifted wood, but she no longer showed it. At night she began noticing one pattern. Long after guards changed posts, one lamp remained lit in the office near storage. Captain Weiss. Always alone. Always reading. One evening, while wind shook the barack walls, Anya whispered from the next bed. You watch the office too often. I watch light because darkness leaks through the roof. You know who sits there. I know who signs orders. Anya lowered her voice further. Then remember, signatures bury people quietly. Rain came after midnight. Hard and sudden. Water struck the roof until sleep became impossible. Then wood cracked overhead. Someone shouted. The center beam split with a violent sound, and half the ceiling dropped. Women screamed as boards fell across beds. Marta pushed Tomas's letter under her coat by instinct and pulled Sophia sideways before timber struck the blanket. A second beam crashed near the doorway. Dust filled the room. Outside, guards shouted. The door opened violently. Kruger stood first, furious. Stand up. Move. We cannot move the beam. Anya shouted. Kruger looked ready to answer with anger, but another figure entered behind him. He crossed the room at once and bent beneath the fallen timber. Lift here. A guard hesitated. Weiss raised his voice. Now. 3 soldiers grabbed one side. Marta pushed from the other. Sophia coughed beneath trapped blankets. Again, Weiss ordered. The beam shifted enough for Sophia to crawl free. Another woman cried from near the wall. A board pinned her ankle. Weiss knelt there himself, lifting one end while Marta pulled the woman clear. Kruger watched from the doorway, arms crossed. Rain continued through the broken roof. One prisoner whispered, Why is he helping? Anya answered under her breath, Because someone is watching. But no officers stood outside. Only guards. When the women were moved into the next barack, Weiss checked the damaged roof once more. His coat was wet through. Kruger muttered, They are prisoners, not guests. Weiss answered without turning. Dead prisoners report nothing. Kruger left first. Sophia sat on the edge of a borrowed bed, breathing hard. Today he touched wood instead of paper. Anya looked at Marta. Do not mistake labor for kindness. Marta said nothing. Yet the image stayed with her, his hands lifting timber while rain soaked his sleeves. By late night the storm eased. The camp fell quiet again. A knock came at the barack door just before midnight. One guard opened it halfway. Novak. Outside. Sophia looked alarmed. Anya whispered, If Kruger called, speak little. But outside stood Weiss near the storage room. He motioned toward the doorway. Inside, one lamp burned low. A small box rested on the table. Marta stayed near the door. What now? You told another prisoner your mother is ill. She frowned. You listen closely. Camp walls listen for everyone. He opened the box. Inside lay a small wrapped packet. Powder for fever. 1 spoon in boiled water. She did not move. For whom? For Helena Novak. How would she receive it? A supply cart returns tomorrow. Marta stared at the packet. You expect thanks? No. Then why? He remained silent for a moment. Finally he said, My sister died because medicine arrived 2 days late. The room changed after that sentence. His voice had lowered, not colder, only distant. She was 12, he added. Bombing destroyed the clinic before dawn. Marta watched his face carefully. For the first time, it did not look controlled. Only tired. That happened there, she said quietly. This happens here. I know. Your grief does not erase ours. He accepted the words without defense. It does not. She looked at the medicine but still did not touch it. How many mothers receive powder because you remember one grave? Fewer than should. And how many daughters sit behind your fence while you decide that? His jaw tightened slightly. Enough to know numbers do not help sleep. The answer unsettled her because it sounded honest. At last she took the packet. Only then. Only slowly. I hate that my hands accept this. You are allowed. No. It feels worse than hatred. He wrapped the medicine inside cloth and handed it over. The guard at dawn will place it beneath flour sacks. If Kruger finds it, he will not. And if he does? Then say nothing. She almost laughed, but no sound came. That seems to be your answer for everything. It keeps people breathing. Outside, boots crossed gravel. He moved to the ledger immediately, distance returning. You go back now. At the door she stopped. Did your sister have a name? He looked down before answering. Lena. Marta opened the door. Then remember Helena when you sign papers. She returned to the barack carrying medicine beneath her coat. Anya sat awake when she entered. What did he want? Marta hid the packet beneath her blanket. Nothing simple. Anya studied her face. That is the dangerous kind. Rain tapped softly through the broken roof. Sophia slept again. Beyond the fence, wind crossed frozen trees. Marta closed her hand around the medicine and hated that gratitude had entered the same space as anger. Snow covered the camp yard by morning, but nothing looked cleaner beneath it. Women still stood in line for soup. Guards still counted bowls as if hunger needed proof. Anya waited until the whistle ended before speaking. Do not react. Marta kept her eyes forward. To what? I saw transport lists last night. That made Marta turn slightly. How? The office window was open. One page hung too close to the lamp. You read names through glass? I taught children letters before soldiers taught fear. Sophia muttered from behind them, and letters still kill faster. Anya leaned closer. Some names were marked for forest transfer. What does that mean? It means wagons leave full and return cleaner. Marta felt the cold more sharply. Whose names? Women from here. Men from 2 villages. She waited. Then Anya said quietly, Helena Novak appeared under village suspects. Marta stopped walking. The guard shouted, Move! She moved again, but her breath had changed. That is impossible. She is home. Kruger marked names after the bridge attack. Family names remain linked. Marta gripped the bowl harder. When? 2 days. Maybe 3. Sophia looked at Marta now. Waiting is how names disappear. By afternoon Marta carried wood near the repair shed outside the inner fence. That was where she first saw him. A man with a limp unloading coal sacks beside a broken generator. One sleeve was patched darker than the rest of his coat. He kept his head low until guards moved away. Then he whispered without looking at her. Your village still stands. Marta froze. You know my village? He lifted another sack. I repaired bicycles there before soldiers learned roads. His face became visible for 1 second. The mechanic from the Southern Crossing. You were taken? Not fully. They need engines more than bodies. A guard passed nearby. Jacob waited until boots faded. Your mother received powder. Marta stared at him. You carried it? I carry many things. Why speak now? He adjusted the coal shovel. Because names move tonight if papers leave the office. Anya's warning returned immediately. Can lists be changed? Lists burn easier than fences. Who sent you? No one who signs uniforms. Before she could ask more, a guard ordered him toward the shed. That evening the office lamp stayed lit longer than usual. Weiss sat alone again. Anya whispered from the barack doorway. If names leave tonight, morning becomes late. I know. Then stop asking whether silence survives war. After night count, Marta volunteered for floor cleaning near storage. The guard allowed it because fewer prisoners argued during snow. Inside the office corridor, she carried a bucket and rag while soldiers moved crates nearby. The office door remained half open. Papers covered the desk. One list near the lamp. She saw Helena's name before she reached the threshold. Helena Novak. Below 3 other villagers. A signature waited at the bottom. Eric Weiss. Her chest tightened. He noticed her instantly. What are you doing here? Cleaning. The guard behind her answered first. Ordered from barracks. Weiss nodded once. Leave the bucket. The guard stepped away. Marta looked directly at the paper. You signed it. His eyes followed hers. Lower your voice. You signed my mother toward death. He stood slowly. The list is delayed. It carries your name. It carries time. She stepped closer. For whom? For anyone still breathing because it did not leave yesterday. Then why sign it at all? Boots sounded outside, then faded again. His answer came lower. Because Kruger watches every refusal. That explains ink, not conscience. If I refuse openly, others die sooner. The sentence landed hard because it sounded practiced, spoken too often even if rarely allowed. She looked at the paper again. How many times did you delay it? Twice. And the third? He did not answer immediately. That depends who enters this room next. A second paper slid partly beneath the first. Transport route. Time before dawn. She understood enough. You protect lives or protect yourself? He held her gaze. Both truths often stand together now. Anger rose because the answer did not hide. A guard called from the corridor. Captain? 1 minute, Weiss answered. He turned toward a cabinet and opened it. Inside hung keys on a metal ring beside sealed envelopes. He removed one ledger, leaving the keys exposed. 2 exposed. Deliberately. He returned to the desk. Take the bucket and leave. She did not move. His hands signed another page slowly. Outside, the guard coughed. Marta reached for the bucket with one hand. The other brushed the cabinet edge. Metal touched her palm. The keys disappeared beneath cloth inside the bucket. Weiss kept writing. He had seen it. She knew he had. Still he said only, you missed a corner. She wiped the floor once near the desk. Then looked again at Helena's name. When? Before dawn if nothing changes. She lifted the bucket. At the door she stopped. If names burn, what will you sign tomorrow? He answered without looking up. Whatever remains unread. Back in the barack, Anya shut the door quickly. You took too long. Marta opened her hand. The keys glinted faintly. Sophia sat upright for the first time in days. You stole from an officer? He allowed it, Marta said. Anya frowned. That is worse. Jacob appeared again near the fence at midnight, pretending to fix a wheel axle. Marta slipped him the key ring through broken board space. 1 office. 1 cabinet. He checked the shapes by touch. Enough. For the lists. For more than lists. Snow fell lightly again. Anya whispered beside her. You crossed something tonight. Marta watched the office lamp through the cracks. Inside, Weiss still sat alone. No, she said quietly. Tonight I stopped waiting. The first artillery sound came far away, beyond the forest, deep enough to shake frost from the barack roof. Women sat upright before the second blast arrived. Sophia whispered, "That is not thunder." Anya moved to the cracked wall. "Western Road." Another boom rolled through the night. Outside, guards shouted near the outer fence. Marta looked toward the office lamp. Still burning. Then darkness. The lamp vanished. So did the tower light near the repair shed. A whistle blew once, then stopped mid-sound. Anya turned fast. Now. The barack door opened from outside. Not a guard. Jacob stood there breathing hard, snow across his shoulders. Move before they restore power. Sophia rose with effort. "I cannot run far." "You run enough," Marta said, taking her arm. Women from the next barack were already crossing the yard, bent low through darkness. Some stumbled in mud beneath snow. A distant guard shouted, "Lights?" No answer came. Jacob led them toward the storage wall. Outer fence near coal trench. Wire already cut. Gunfire cracked near the tower. A woman screamed behind them. Then more shots. Chaos broke open across the camp. Kruger's voice rose above all others. "Stop them!" A searchlight flickered once, failed again. Anya grabbed Marta's sleeve. "Faster!" They reached the coal trench where shadows moved through broken wire. 2 women crawled through first. Sophia dropped to her knees. "I cannot bend." Marta pushed snow aside with both hands. "You can." A guard appeared near the yard corner, rifle lifting toward the women at the fence. Before he fired, another shot came from behind. The guard fell sideways into snow. Marta turned. Captain Weiss stood near the office steps, pistol raised. For 1 second no one moved. Then Kruger saw him. "You." Another shot came from Kruger's side. Weiss ducked behind a barrel. Jacob shouted, "Through the fence." Anya crawled first. Marta pushed Sophia after her. Snow soaked through their sleeves. Behind them, soldiers shouted conflicting orders. One called retreat. Another called prisoners back. Nothing held shape anymore. Marta reached the outer side of the fence and looked back. Weiss fired again, forcing one guard down. Kruger advanced through snow with rifle in hand. The distance between them closed fast. "Go!" Anya shouted. But Marta saw what Kruger aimed at. Not the escaping women. But the shot came sharp and clean. Weiss staggered backward. A dark stain spread across his coat before he fell beside the broken trench. Sophia gasped. "Marta!" She did not move. Kruger reloaded while stepping closer. The outer forest stood open behind her. Freedom only meters away. Yet Weiss lay half-raised in snow, one hand still gripping the pistol loosely. Marta crawled back through the wire opening before Anya could stop her. Snow cut her palms. Jacob cursed under his breath. "Marta!" She reached Weiss as Kruger crossed the yard. Weiss opened his eyes with effort. "You should be gone." Blood marked the snow beneath him. His free hand searched inside his coat. He pulled out folded paper and pressed it toward her. "Take this." She unfolded enough to see Helena's name crossed beneath an official stamp. Medical pass. Village clearance. "Why keep this?" "For when roads open." Kruger's boots approached. Weiss pushed weakly at her wrist. "Go before morning." His pistol slipped from his hand into snow. Kruger stopped 5 steps away. So this is what silence hid. His rifle lifted toward Weiss first. Then toward Marta. "You return to your fence and he dies slower." Marta stood halfway, breathing hard. Kruger smiled without warmth. "You thought officers become heroes in mud?" Weiss tried to rise and failed. Kruger adjusted aim. He was weak before he fired. Marta's fingers closed around the pistol in snow. Cold metal. Heavy. Kruger saw too late. His rifle began to turn. The shot broke through the yard louder than artillery. Kruger stopped moving. For 1 second he remained upright, disbelief fixed across his face. Then he fell backward into the snow beside the trench. Everything else became strangely quiet. Only distant guns remained beyond the forest. Anya reached Marta first. "You fired." Marta stared at Kruger. "I know." Jacob took the rifle from the ground. Then standing here becomes death. Sophia waited by the fence opening, shaking badly. Weiss breathed unevenly. Marta knelt once more. You planned this? No, he whispered. Only delay. Why shoot your own guard? He aimed at Sophia first. His voice weakened. Do not make this matter more than it does. Snow touched his hair. She held the medical pass tightly. You gave names time. He looked toward the forest. Take it while time still answers. Jacob grabbed her shoulder. Now. A whistle sounded again from the far tower. New guards, new direction, more danger. Marta stood slowly. For one moment she looked at Weiss as if trying to place him somewhere history would understand. But war offered no clean place. Only choices already bleeding. She stepped back through the wire. Anya helped Sophia into the trees. Jacob covered their tracks with loose snow. Behind them, Weiss remained where he had fallen, half hidden by darkness and winter. Ahead, the forest opened under distant artillery light. Marta ran holding Helena's pass in one hand and the empty pistol in the other. And before dawn reached the camp, she understood she had crossed the last line war had left inside her. Dawn arrived like a pale promise. Marta stepped onto the narrow road leading back to the village, snow still crusted along the forest edges. Anya and Sophia followed close behind. The forest seemed quieter now, each broken branch and frozen puddle echoing the footsteps of survivors. Will anyone follow us? Sophia asked, voice trembling. Jacob adjusted his coat, keeping his eyes on the distant trees. Not this far. The firing drew attention elsewhere. Marta held the folded paper Weiss had pressed into her hand. She kept it close, folded beneath layers of coat. Her palms itched from cold and adrenaline, but she did not look at it yet. The village came into view. Smoke rose from the remains of 3 houses. The church tower still stood, though blackened at the base. Fields flattened and scarred by boots and fire surrounded the ruins. Helena stepped slowly onto the road, leaning on the doorway of what remained of their home. Marta! Her voice was weak, almost swallowed by the morning wind. I'm here, Marta said, running forward. She embraced her mother carefully, noticing how much smaller and fragile she had grown. Helena's arms clung tight, shaking. Tomas came out from behind a half-burned fence. His hair was longer, his face more lined than the boy she remembered. He said nothing, only held her hand, gripping it as if he feared letting go might bring the past crashing back. Marta looked around the village, her stomach twisting. Some homes, thun. Some people gone. Anya knelt beside a ruined wall, brushing snow from a collapsed chair. Sophia sat on a beam, staring at the open sky. It is still standing. That counts for something, she said softly. Marta nodded, but her eyes found empty spaces where neighbors had once been. The wheat fields beyond swayed faintly in the wind, fragile yet resilient. Is anyone else here? Tomas finally spoke, his voice low. Only those who could run, Marta answered, glancing at Jacob. He gave a slight nod and disappeared toward the outer road to ensure no soldiers remained. Inside the damaged house, Marta spread blankets over the floor. Helena sank into one corner, still trembling, eyes glassy. Marta placed a hand on her mother's shoulder. Mother, we're alive. That matters. Helena nodded slowly. Alive, but at what cost? Tomas crouched by the window, looking out at the frost-bitten wheat. Does war ever end? Marta looked down at him, seeing both the child who had screamed at the trucks and the boy now weighed with understanding beyond his years. It leaves slowly, she said, voice soft. Days passed. Food was scarce, but survival demanded motion. Marta found old seeds among the remnants of their cupboards. She planted them carefully in the soil outside the house. Each hole in the earth felt like a promise, fragile but stubborn. At night, she unfolded the letter Weiss had given her, holding it close to the fading oil lamp beside her father's photograph. The ink was familiar, official, precise, but behind it she sensed hesitation, human concern buried beneath uniforms and orders. Weeks later, retreating armies left the region. Soldiers abandoned camps, trucks, and papers in haste. Marta sifted through what remained of the records at the old military barracks nearby. Some documents she burned immediately, smoke curling into the clear sky. Each page held names, lists of people who might have died if delays hadn't occurred. Yet one document she kept carefully. It bore Weiss's signature. She folded it beside her father's old letters, a quiet testament to the complicated choices of war. Tomas approached her that afternoon. "Do you think anyone survived because of him?" Marta did not answer right away. She looked at the wheat bending in the spring wind, each stalk rising despite broken soil. "Perhaps," she said finally. "Or perhaps only because someone chose to act, even when impossible." Sophia and Anya helped Marta repair parts of the house, fixing walls and clearing debris. The work was slow, each movement reminding them of what had been lost. But it also reminded them of what remained. One evening, Marta sat outside, wind tugging at her coat. She unfolded Weiss's letter again, the same way she had the first night after the escape. Light from the horizon softened the ink, but every word seemed alive. She read it quietly, imagining the man who had risked himself, who had delayed death without demanding thanks. Her mother rested inside, coughing softly from weeks of cold and fear. Tomas was nearby, quietly stacking firewood. Marta folded the letter and pressed it to her chest. The world had not ended, though it had scarred them deeply. A bird called from the edge of the wheat field. Marta stood and breathed the early evening air. Snow had gone, replaced by the promise of spring. She looked at the damaged but standing house, at the field beyond, and at her brother, older now in ways words could not measure. "Do you think war ever truly ends?" Tomas asked again. She knelt beside him, placing a hand over his small one. "It leaves slowly," she repeated, watching the wind move through the wheat. "And even when it goes, it changes everything it touches." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the field in pale orange. Marta unfolded the letter one last time beside her father's photograph. Inked words, paper, and memory tied past and present. She read slowly, carefully, understanding that survival did not erase pain, but it allowed the living to bear it with purpose. In the quiet village, with wheat swaying in the breeze, Marta allowed herself to feel both loss and hope. She had crossed the fences, defied cruelty, and returned home, carrying the weight of both grief and courage. Outside, the wind carried the faint scent of earth, fire, and rebirth. The past lingered, but life persisted, stubborn and resilient, as she folded the letter and placed it beside her father's photo. Tomorrow, she would plant more seeds. And in the soil, she would plant memory, survival, and hope. The night deepened, but for the first time in years, Marta slept without fear. The war had left scars. It had taken much. But it had not taken the will to endure. And when the wind stirred through the wheat again, she knew that some light could always return, even after the smoke cleared.